And now, here is Coretta McDonald, Member of Parliament and host of Advancing the Cause.
Well, good night to you. Welcome to another episode of Advancing the Cause. Where are you and what are you doing now? What are you doing? I hope you're tuned in. And if you're not, then just quickly get yourself hooked up. Call your friends, tell your friends everywhere. Advancing the Cause is on, and you should be ready to watch us at this time. Well, you know what? Lots and lots of things would have happened over the last couple of days. From last Wednesday to now, lots and lots of things happened. So wherever you're watching at us from, whether you're watching at us from right here in Georgetown, or somewhere across Guyana, or in the Caribbean, or you're watching us from the UK or North America, or somewhere further than that, good night to you. I'm trusting that you had a good day. But you know what? Let me tell you, we here in Guyana, for my friends in the Caribbean and elsewhere, we have been experiencing lots of rain. And with the rainy weather comes lots of other things, but we are trying to cope with it. And so tonight on Advancing the Cause, we have quite a lot to talk about. We're going to continue a conversation that we left off maybe about 3 weeks ago, but we're going to talk about that as soon as I'm finished with the highlights that I have here for you. And so first on our highlights for this evening, we want to say congratulations to our young Guyanese boy there who graduated as the valedictorian at a U.S. high school. Congratulations to you, my dear, and to your family. We are so proud of you. You see, as Guyanese, when we go out there, we make our mark. We make our mark. And so very often I say to folks, you know, with the little that we have here, when we go for the field, we make our mark and we make our people proud. And so on that same note, I want to extend happy belated birthday to quite a young man. His name is Kenneth October. He resides in Broad Street in the Charlestown area. And I want to say happy 102nd birthday to you. I trust that God is going to continue to bless you with good health, because I've seen some pictures of him there and he's quite a happy soul, and he's having his late night drive and drive out and that kind of thing. Happy birthday to you, my dear. God's richest blessings. And of course, we want to congratulate the Golden Jaguars. Yes, they've made us proud too. And we hope that you're going to continue in that winning trend. But on another aspect, I want to extend condolences to those who have lost. You know, just yesterday we lost a 21-year-old young lady, 20 or 21-year-old young lady, senselessly in that East Penitence area. Folks, come on. Violence is not the answer. And so we have 4 or 5 persons who are now in the lockups. Violence is not the answer. We can talk these issues out. We can work them out. Let's not resort to using weapons, because the mere fact that you're holding that in your hand is because you have intentions. And as long as you hold that, then you're going to use it. Come on, people, too many lives are going down the drain senselessly. Let's do something better. And I'm hoping that the Minister of Social Protection and others, that they're taking note of all that is happening in our communities, which is saying to you that you need to do some more. You need to do much, much more than you're doing. You see all of these handouts that you're doing all the time, or most of the time, these one-off handouts that you're doing every now and again, these can't suffice. You have to put systems in place. Go out there and talk with the residents, listen to their issues, you know, put counselors in place so that they can start helping our citizens across here. We need every single one of them. And so I want to extend condolences to the families of that young lady. And you know what? She is now gone and left three children behind. Three children behind. So sad. And then we have the issue of the missing accident victim. Wow, this is one. This is a hard one. But it has brought, now we the family are having closure to this whole issue. As a matter of fact, the owner of the car, he confessed to dumping the body there, and as a matter of fact, he took the investigators to the location where the body was dumped. And so that's another whole story that we are going to have there. Come on, folks, that's not the way. That's not the way to do these things. And so I want to send out shout outs before I continue to Marlon Thomas and Vidya Hunt and Veronica Rollins and Chlorine James and Bernadette Duncan. Good night to you, and Andrea Jackman. Good night to you. It's good to have you here. Tell your friends, share the link, tell them Advancing the Cause is on. And so as we continue with our highlights, we saw a female being arrested after cocaine was found amongst some religious documents that she was going to ship somewhere. It was found at one of the DHL's locations where she was planning to send that somewhere else. But the law enforcement officers, Kanu, as a matter of fact, they were able to intercept that. I don't know where we are going with all of this cocaine and all this marijuana and all these drugs that are passing here. Where these things are going, where are we getting them from? Folks, that's not the way to go. Guyana is now known for so many crazy things. We've got to move from this level, and we've got to do better things. The fast money and the high big life for a couple of days or a week or 2 months and so on, it's not going to put you anywhere, folks. Let's get to doing honest jobs so that we can live in peace. And then we had some other issues where a minor and his girlfriend, they're now in the Georgetown Hospital, critical, after they've been set alight by another minor over again, another misunderstanding. Folks, this is not the way to go. This is not the way to go. And then we have another issue with the police, where the police would have buried the remains of a fisherman without informing his relatives. And this is a fisherman who drowned, and they've buried him, and the family are now saying, we didn't want that to happen, like we didn't want it to happen like that. At least we should have been there to bring some closure to this whole thing. Come on. Guyana Police Force, you've got to do a little better than what you're doing. And so come on, let's do something. And so yes, I'm seeing Marlon Thomas there saying PPP come back, PPP come back, with all the drugs that has been circulating in and around this country. We've got to do better than we're doing. And while we're on that, I'm going to bring right in my guest for this evening. Before we go further than this, I'm going to bring my guest right in. He is no stranger to us. He is MP Vincent Henry, all the way there from Region 9, Lethem in Region 9. MP, good evening to you, and again, welcome to another episode of Advancing the Cause. Now, this evening, we are going to continue the conversation we started some 3 weeks ago. But before we do that, I just want to share with our viewers and to share with you some clips that we have, issues in the school system. MP Henry, could you unmute yourself because you're muted? Kindly unmute yourself. Yes. And so we, right. And so we have Laurie James Semple, and we have again Desiree Singh and Chlorine James, and all these folks who are saying good night and that they're watching the program and they're watching us from very far. Good night to you. And so, MP Henry, we have you here. But before we go into our conversation, I just want to share these clips with our viewers. Problems in the education system, problems at schools. And so today we had an issue at Lodge Secondary School. We had an issue there today. This one here is Upper Mass, where the students were, where parents and students and teachers were complaining about the kind of food, shine rice, that is being given to the students there. And then we have more problems at another school on the Essequibo. Well, this here is in Region 3, where we had flooding there at one of our nursery schools, and the pupils and the teachers had to traverse this water to go in there. And so it seems as if something is really, really wrong. Seems as if we have only dry weather schools. And I'm hoping that, the Ministry of Education is going to use the 2 months August vacation, that period there, to rectify some of these issues that we're having in the schools. We have the Abram Zul Secondary School that is now they have demolished that building and they're going to be rebuilding that building. And of course, we went there and we gave the folks a whole lot of fancy talks. And now that you've gone after the fancy talks, and that's the politicians, they've given them lots of fancy talks. The parents are now left there to fend for themselves and their children. Transportation woes. We have children who are coming from as far as Tapakuma and from the Pomeroon, and they have to be up by 5:36 in the morning to get to school so that they can get there on time. MP Henry, your take on these whole issues, and of course you're going to tell us what's happening there in Region 9.
Okay, good night to you and all listeners. Indeed, I'm in Region 9, Latam Rupanuni. And I looked at the picture that you showed. I think it's at Warmadong, where shine rice was being fed to the children regularly according to reports received. And that there is no excuse for that sort of thing to be happening. None. I noted I noted that some officials have been trying to, make excuses for themselves and for the government, but totally, totally wrong for that to be happening in any school. And it looks as if because the school is in the hinterland, that some felt that it could have been hidden away and would not have come to the light of the day, but it is there,
Mm-hmm.
and that there tells us the the kind of respect and the kind of care that this government has for the indigenous people. And
Oh,
if I
wow.
should go further into some of the problems that we are facing here in the Pununi, um, for example, at Anai, you have children who walk to school some 4 miles or so to the school at Bina Hill, and there is no transportation for them. The David Granger bus was taken away during the COVID time and has not been sent back to that area. So the children have to walk, and the roads are not bitumen roads; they are mud roads. So imagine you dressing up in the morning early to go to school, and when you arrive there, you will all muddied up because you have to walk. And then this is the rainy season that compounds the whole problem. And the parents they were calling for the bus or buses to be made available. They remember the David Granger bus. They remember the caring APNU ALC government that cared for the children with the I think it's more than 5 Bs. And they are also asking that at least a lunch be given to the children who come from far off areas. For example, some of them are like from 14 miles away. They come to school, and they they do not get lunch. Only those who are in the dorms enjoy lunch. The rest will have to either push your hand in their pockets to see if anything is inside there, or they have to swallow their saliva. So these are some of the problems that are being faced there. And if we had a caring government, the least we should have done so far is to make sure that the children have transportation to school and plans afoot to make sure they have at least one meal. Because how can a child learn when you're hungry? You know, we were all young and we know when hunger steps in, it's difficult to learn. And if I should go
Mhm.
further, Coretta, the in St. Ignatius School, recently I understand they had a meeting to discuss what the problems were, and I understand there were lots and lots of problems that came up. One of those was the again the transportation because there isn't enough buses, and even if the children join a bus that is supplied by the town council, they have to pay. I think it's $1,000 a week that they have to pay. So in 15 weeks, that's done. The little help, the little monies that they got from the government and big talk about it is gone. And those who wish to go by private means like taxi will have to pay $1,000 a day, 500 to go, and 500 to return. So that's a big problem also. And the school by itself, it's like the St. Ignatius School has like over 1,000 students, and there is only one what you call toilet set of style facilities there, one building, um, where what the children should use. And imagine 1,000 plus children using one set of toilets there. What will happen if a diarrhea hits that school? It's madness. So the parents are crying out for more of those to be put in place. And not only that, toilet paper should be made available. Um, I guess the government is expecting the children to walk to school with their toilet paper when they're going there. But we all know the high cost of living now. We know that things are really exorbitant, and it is very difficult for some people to even get food on their tables. And so it's also difficult to get those sort of stuff to walk with to school. And I understand that although there is COVID around the place, the various supplies that used to be supplied are no longer there. So everybody is on his or her own, and that is the kind of caring government that we have here right now. And the one of the things we have been asking for is that more secondary schools be built and um, allowed to function. For example, we asked for one at Maruna in the south of Pununi, one at either Napi or Lupakari, and one at Karasabay. Because once you get that, it will help to ease the amount of children who are, at the St. Ignatius Secondary School.
Something.
There's also one at I Shelton, but that too is already crowded. Understand the children have moved out and gone to other buildings, etc. So those are the sort of problems that we are facing. And it is good that the ministry sent a team to listen, but listening is not all. You have to put things in place to make sure that the children uh, get conditions that are good for them to be able to learn, and not just put those reports on the wall or the table and forget about it. Yes, correct.
Yes, and so we're hearing about all that is happening in education. We saw the minister just during the budget speech when her budget was passed. When that part of the ministry's portion was passed, that the minister was on Facebook and she was there glouting about the biggest budget cut for education and budget pass and all kinds of crazy things. But here we are. I think we're getting a feedback there. Yes, but here we are with all these monies for education, but yet our children are going through all kinds of things. Our teachers are suffering, our students are suffering. We don't have proper buildings for them to operate in. We have schools that are short of staff, all kinds of craziness happening. I know you did mention the Granger buses that we used to have. Of course, the PPP came in and they did all kinds of things with those buses. They vandalized some, they changed the names, they did all sorts of things with those buses, pulled them off the streets. And now parents are faced with that kind of hardship to provide transportation, finances for transportation for their children. And in many, many instances, these very parents, many of them were dismissed. And so to find that transportation now, the finances for transportation, they can't find it. And so our children are suffering. I am hoping that the Ministry of Education, that somebody is listening to this program. So come September 2022, we can have some of those buses on the streets again, on the road, picking school children up, dropping them off to school. We can have the boats there again to pick up the students and the pupils and drop them to where they have to go. Now, these kinds of things, sometimes you wonder whether these people are thinking. And then you hear the big talk about this one Guyana and this big talk about because we care. How can you care when you're giving to the students shine rice? And I'm seeing one of our viewers asking, what is shine rice? Well, shine rice is rice that we boil with, I think it's coconut and some seasoning with no meat or anything in it. So that is what you call shine rice. That is shine rice. It actually doesn't have anything nutritious in it to give to our children. And so I don't know how we expect our children to learn. The thing is, the Ministry of Education, I don't think they understand what they're supposed to be doing. If they did, then we wouldn't have all of these problems that we're having in schools. We just had today an issue at the Lodge Secondary School. And I'm saying if these matters were addressed timely, or in a timely manner, then we wouldn't have all of these overcrowding and all of these flowing over that we're having in schools. And then you know what? As a former teacher, you would know, Vincent, if the teacher is not comfortable, then he or she would not be able to deliver. And then the student suffers. And then the community would suffer. So what really are we doing when we talk about this one Guyana and we're hoping to ensure that everybody, all students and pupils are exposed to proper learning? What are we really doing?
Coretta, there's one other point I would like to raise with regards to secondary education in Region 9. This problem seems to be recurring. It's right now it's kind of rampant or is big at Sand Creek Secondary School, where apparently, I'm no expert, apparently some students, especially the females, suffer from something like a stress disorder. Um, and with that, they get real sick. They climb walls, they try to jump through windows, they run, you know, throwing up their
Mm-hmm.
clothes, all sorts of things happening. Um, and I noticed somebody posted up that is happening also at the I Shelton Secondary School. And well, one of I raised this issue with the minister herself, and she said that she would ask somebody to look into it. But the problem seems to be getting worse. And the suggestion that we have is that these schools should get regular visits from um, people who are qualified to deal with such disorders, you know, like psychiatrists and whatnot. They're supposed to be there. But the core reason to me why this is happening is because the poor children who come from poor families, they go to school in secondary school and they have to find all sorts of clothing and equipment and everything else that is needed now for to get good education. You got to find a tablet, you got to find shoes and socks. In my days, I used to go to school without shoes nor socks. No stress on my head. Uh, but now children got to get everything. So when the child reaches school, especially the female who has more needs, I think, than the males, and they cannot get what they want, it's stressful. And eventually it becomes so stressful that they do all sorts of irregular things. And so I want to propose that the ministry take this very seriously because one day somebody will die. And when that person dies, you cannot say like what you're saying that 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 somebody else caused the problem, like what happened at Ramadan and the Shine Rice. You
Mm-hmm.
would have known that there's a big problem and you didn't do anything to solve it. So I am suggesting that uh, relevant medical personnel visit these schools regularly, have one-to-one interaction with those children who suffer, and also ensure that the children get what they need. If it's to get a pair of shoe, pair of socks, a sheet, or or something that's so necessary, or a cake of soap or whatever, make sure that they get these things so that the stress level will not be there. So that's my appeal. Thank you.
Well, these issues have not only been at I Shelton, we would have had these issues at Santa Rosa Secondary. Over and over and over, we would have had those issues there. We had these issues, if my memory serves me right, we had these issues at Parmakatoy Secondary. And so you're actually correct where you're saying that we need to have medical persons going in there to talk with these students. We need to have social workers, as a matter of fact, talking with these students and allowing them to be de-stressed. The thing is, while our students are in the dorms, many of them are away from home. And then you bring them to the dorms, and then you don't give them proper things to eat. And so all of these outbursts that we're having, they are as a result of the students not being really comfortable. And while we're on this, I'm seeing Kenneth Morian there from New York City, and he's saying, I'm watching the program. Good night to you, Kenneth. And we also have Narayan Singh. Narayan Singh, I understand what is happening with you, because he is saying, oh, the buses used to transport APNU supporters to excursions on the weekends. Well, I'm happy that you know that. But during the week, the students who had to get to school, the buses were there ready for them to get to school. And so these are the little distractors that we have sometimes on our programs, but we're happy that you're here, Narayan, so that you can learn and you can advise some of your friends on what they need to do. Cook proper food and give the children. Ensure that the problems in the schools are fixed with regards to the fencing and the zinc, which is the part of the roof, and the entrance to the gate and all those areas. Ensure that you tell your friends to fix them so that we'll have proper school buildings, we'll have proper walkways, and we'll have more social workers and counselors in our schools so that they can talk with our children and we wouldn't have the issues. But Vincent, I noticed we had earlier, sometime maybe last month or so, we had a big announcement by the Minister of Education where she was hinting that schools may be open during the July August vacation. And then suddenly, we had a couple of days ago, I think it was too, the minister came out there and she was saying, well, we had consultation with the students and the teachers. And so we know we're not going to be reopening schools during July and August. Your take on that one?
Correctly, we just finished talking about stress disorders, and for you to tell children who already have in their minds that they will be going on vacation, that you have to come back to school. Of course, there will be some who will want to do so, but many will want to have their 2 months or month and a few weeks for themselves to be able to be with their families, especially those who are in the dorms and whatnot. And as such, they should be allowed to. They should be allowed to. Um, I recollect when when I was in the teaching profession that I would give lessons, but the lessons that I gave was done because of the needs of the children, because they wanted it. It wasn't a case because I would force them as a teacher that you have to come to lessons. No, if you need it, then I'm here to help you. And we used to help children during the holidays, etc. And that should be done. You should have in each community um, teachers who may have left, may have retired, etc. Give them an honorarium, let them help students, let them give guidance and things like that, and allow the children to be free to roam because all, if I remember correctly, all work and no play certainly will not make Jack into somebody good. It's something that will cause more problems than for the students. So I think by her coming out to say that she's stepping back on that one, it's good. And the let the villages help the villages to put things in place to assist their children. Thank you.
Yeah, well, we saw like I said, we saw the minister pulling what she said, pulling that back from the statement she made there. And of course, um, I don't know what was going through the minister's head when she made that statement. Because like I said before, the persons who would have crafted the constitution, and they put the school year in place, and those breaks in between the three terms, they knew exactly what they were doing. And much more than that, we would have had quite a stressful period with COVID and all of that. And so when you're talking about gaining time and learning loss can't begin in 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 4 weeks. It has to be a well set out process that would help you to do work and extra work with the students and the pupils to be able to catch up, if you will be able to catch up on what was lost. And so I don't know where that statement came from, but I'm happy that, well, I shouldn't say good sense prevailed, but I know for sure that our teachers did speak on this issue or to the issue. And as a result of that, the minister would have retracted her statement, because teachers already have plans for the vacation. Teachers have already set themselves with regards to what they wanted to do or what they are going to be doing. And so I don't understand why we make a couple of decisions that we sometimes make without even thinking about the consequences. But Vincent, let's talk a little more about what has been happening in your neck of the woods. I notice we are issuing grants, and I'm wondering how many persons are really going to benefit from those grants, if at all. Many persons will benefit from the grants. I notice um, quite a lot of disrespect has been happening in your neck of the woods, where Tushaus have been disciplined, some to that effect. Tell us what is happening back at your end there.
Well, as far as I know, they we have had floods in Region 9 here. It wasn't the worst one, like for the last 10 years or 15 years, but it was a big one. And many people lost their farms, lost their cassava. And once there is no cassava, the cassava starts to rot because of water. Um, it is our staple diet. People start to starve. People start to starve. And as such, indeed, some assistance is welcome. Is welcome. Be it in the form of cash grants or be it in the form of hampers, yes, it will be welcome. But what I do notice is that now it's becoming like just to show that you're giving something. The government is handing out like a hamper, but what the hamper has inside. Um, for what I have noticed from a picture I have seen, I haven't really seen the real one. Two packets of Brazilian farine, two packets of flour, and a bottle of cooking oil, and bottle of Coca-Cola, and maybe some other tiny stuff there. How long would that last a family of five? And our families are normally big here, 10, 12. How long would it last? So if you're doing something, do it properly, do it with care. Don't do it because you just want to take a photograph and show you're doing something. Um, and then you leave the people worse than they are actually. And in terms of cash grant, we all saw what happened the last time, where some families were more equal than some, according to George Orwell's Animal Farm. Some people got much more, and some, because you maybe wear a green shirt or things like that, you got less. Um, let there be equitable distribution or help for the people. Um, so that it's done, but it must be done in a proper manner. And then Coretta of recent, I have been hearing on some other programs because um, programs that some two shows, especially two shows, have been in some sort of problem. For example, I've heard on Sharon's program where some two shows, I think it's in Barbie, River, etc., have had some problems, and with accountability. And the problem I have is that if this is happening, there is problem with accountability. Then, and you want to take action against it as a ministry, then do it in a fair manner. Don't do it because Vincent Henry, myself, is a Tusha when I wear green shirt. You can put down, you will put all the, you'll step down on me with all the laws, everything against me. And Peter James in the corner there, who wears a red shirt, he has problems, and you just, ignore his problems. You try your best not to make him, face the consequences. If you're going for one, go for all. Otherwise, don't go at all. And
Mhm.
what we have noticed, I have noticed, is that some indeed some two shows are getting up quite well because of the support that they give at the elections and to whom they give their votes. So that's the government of today. And those who are thought to be up no AFC or even apolitical are given, are being held, to account according to the law. For example, just recently, I saw a letter in which a Tushao in the Pacaraimos, one of the biggest communities in the Pacaraimos, was told that he was suspended, and and then he would, and then a team would be sent in to do an investigation. But when I read the letter, I saw that the leader of that team going in to investigate the Tushao is none other than a well-known CPP political activist. You know, how can you send a political activist to go and adjudicate, to go and check out what's happening in the indigenous community? Think he's going to be fair or she's going to be fair? I don't think so. Not the way how they have been operating, and and that's the unfortunate thing. And just this afternoon, I saw another one where another a senior counselor was suspended, but she was suspended when I read the article because COVID grants were a COVID grant was given, and the community decided that how they will use the grant. They decided that this grant will be distributed among the families, and all the families got. And I am told that some of the people who even got and who agreed and who got some of those grants turn back and say that Tushaw was wrong. But it wasn't Tushaw's decision, it was the community's decision. And today she was suspended. I saw a letter saying that she was suspended. And again, an investigative team will be coming in to look into the matter, headed by a PPP political activist. This is total I pass. How can you be sending a PPP activist to lead a delegation to investigate anyone whatsoever? We already know what the result will be. It happened already in region 8. It happened there already, um, where Tusha was same thing. She was suspended, and eventually she was fired from the job because same thing happened. This actually the same person who's going to do the investigation is going put went and investigated for her. And we all knew even before the investigation what the results would be. So the minister is very high-handed, I must say. I hope she would uh, take get some sort of reasoning and some sort of feelings, and to send somebody to investigate those cases who will be fair, who will be fair, because right now it's just not fair. Thank you.
Well, we have seen this happening, and we've seen it from the level of parliament, and you know that, Vincent, where there is no, like you said, animal farms. Some are better than some are treated better than some. Where we saw there, um, Dharamlal doing a whole lot of madness, but the speaker doesn't hear that. The speaker doesn't see what the signs and so on that they're making, and the words that they utter. He doesn't hear quite a lot of them, but he hears other words. And this is what we have seen transcending all across Guyana. We've seen this with the COVID cash grant give out, where in some regions, 5 and 6 persons in one home, it is alleged they would have received. And you go to other homes and they're being told, well, we're giving you a pink slip, we're going to return at some point, or you can't receive because you're not the owner of the home, you're just a tenant, you can't receive. And we've seen that happen with the flood relief. We've seen that happening, and here again we're seeing it happening with the manner with which investigations are done. We just saw a police officer resigning after she alleged that she was assaulted by Attorney Singh. And we saw the bare pot and sweeping under the carpet of that entire issue. As a matter of fact, the police officer, she was written to. As a matter of fact, she was dismissed from the police force. And it leaves one to wonder, what is this one Guyana talk that we're hearing from these folks? Is it that these people don't understand what they're saying, or they're just carrying out this big masquerade, giving people the impression that they're all about one Guyana, when we know that they're not all about any one Guyana? And I'm seeing a young man there who is talking about show your SOPs. Apparently, he lacks comprehension. He doesn't understand what this conversation is all about. I'm hoping that some one of our viewers would enlighten him as to what the conversation is all about. We're talking here education and problems in our society. That's what we're talking this evening. We're not talking about SOPs, Mr. Passad, Denny Passad. We're not talking about SOPs. When we have G come on the program, we'll talk then about SOPs and elections. Not tonight. So fix your head right. Shake your head properly and fix it right. Yes. So back to you, Vincent. This whole thing about the manner with which persons are being treated by this government, all that we're having here, we are seeing who the PPP are indeed, who they are. That's what we are seeing, the real PPP. That's all we are saying. That's all we're seeing all across this country. We've seen, which is a good thing, children who are suffering from disability being given a one-off cash grant, or an annual cash grant, as they call it. We saw the fisher folk given cash grant. We saw Gaisuko workers given over and over. They're being bailed out. But the regular public servants, which includes teachers and nurses and everybody else, nothing for them. And you wonder whether this is a government who thinks about their citizens, and whether they're serious about bridging this big gap that we have when it comes to discrimination against one set of people because you're presumed to be not like them or not supporters of them. This is what we see all around this country. And I'm hoping that one of these days we're going to have a stop to this kind of foolishness. We don't talk about Sue. Sue is under the carpet now. We don't talk about Sue. We're not talking about all these drugs that we found all over the place, and nobody is being held responsible for them. But you want to talk about all kinds of craziness. You want to talk about. I don't know. My good friend Sherrod, he has special names for some of these people. But let's keep on target with what we're doing. We're talking here cash grants. We're talking here discrimination. We're talking here the situations in schools. How do we better the system? How do we better this education system that we're having, where we would want to churn out citizens who are productive to this country? How do we better this?
Coretta, let me just say this, that indeed, like I mentioned on a program before, that we, my party, the Guyana Action Party, believes that indeed once once we have it, once we have the means, that we should give our people a chance to live better lives. And if cash grant is one of the means, well, so be it. But it must be done in an orderly, accountable manner. What I have noticed is that, like we mentioned, George Orwell's Animal Farm just now. Some some sections of our population seems to be hogging it. For example, the one section, I wouldn't call who they are, I think we all know who they are, receive monies, severance pay when they had
Mhm.
to leave the industry, when the industry was closed, so to speak. And then eventually they got another set of money, and at first they called it severance pay, and then when I don't know, like they didn't do the research, they found that they had already received the change it to another to a grant, and but the amount 250,000, if I remember correctly, for them, and then another set got 150,000, and some people through the floods got, I understand this is allegedly so, um, millions of dollars, while some barely got, and some who really were affected didn't get. So it's really,
That's true.
a disorderly something happening here. And when you look at it, I don't have any problem with the children with disabilities or you
No.
know getting that 100,000. I have no problem. But the problem I have is that that one-off 100,000, when it's done. And we
It's
all know
done.
a
Yes.
100,000 today is not big money. It's not big money. And when it's done, it's done. What I would have liked to have seen was that, okay, um, we have a register of these children who are suffering from various disabilities, and they each be given X amount of money per month. In Brazil,
Hmm.
if the
Yeah.
person had told me correctly, the person like that gets around $80,000 a month or even more. Because this is about 10 years ago they told me that, 8 years ago they told me that. So that is, now those people can live meaningful lives. They would, they're respected in society and such like that. But you give them a thousand, 100,000, and then afterwards you forget about them. That's not the right thing to do. And the same thing applies to all other categories of workers and people in Guyana. Make sure you give them, especially our workers, something good. When will our public servants get, a salary that will make them live comfortable lives? When? I mean, people get money on a monthly basis, and by the time you draw the money today, in a matter of days, it's done because you pay bills and you pay
Hmm.
bills and you pay bills and everything is
Hmm.
gone, and then you got to go back and take credit, and then that's what's happening in our country. And I go back to the point which I made before. Once we have the means, then look after our people, and we have the means. We may not be able to give everybody $1 million now, but at least we can be able to put a system in place where everybody gets something better than what they have now, and that includes the indigenous people. When you look at the when you look at the scale of what they're giving, and you look at who gets the least, you would note that the indigenous people gets the least because I wanted to go and become a sugar worker when I heard what was happening because I know they'll be getting more. Oh, I shouldn't call their name. Sorry. They will be getting more down the line. When elections coming up closer, they will be getting. So I don't mind taking a cutlass and chop some cane, some corner there, because I know what they will get. But others now will not be sharing properly in the patrimony of our country. And our country has now, maybe not all, but it has a lot of it. It'll be getting more. And we should start planning to make sure that our people are satisfied. But if you don't hear that, if the PDP doesn't hear that, well, they're going to get the results that they're looking for as time goes on. Thank you.
Which is sad. Because the thing is, all of us, all of us, regardless of which sector you fall into, all of us are playing our part in terms of making this country a better one. All of us are causing the economy in this country to roll. And it's a disgrace, it's a shame when you look at the manner with which some sectors of our workers are being treated as against how others are being treated. And this cannot be right. And I'm hoping that our people, their eyes are open and their ears are open and they're hearing and they're seeing what is happening. Our indigenous brothers, I hope that they are listening and they are seeing what is happening. Because when you look at the manner with which they are being treated, when it comes to elections time, they'll come to flood you with a whole lot of things. You have to tell them then, you weren't giving me these things during the years before. Where you find it now to give me? Why you couldn't give me before? And like you said, Vincent, with regards to our children who are disabled, we are happy, but we don't want one off for them. We want to have constant. We want you to show constant caring for our people, our children. That's what we want to see. We don't want you to always treat us as if we're beggars, that every now and again you bring a bowl and put it in front of us. So we always have to keep running behind you. We want you to enable us so that we can be better citizens. We can live comfortable lives. Our teachers can be comfortable. Our nurses can be comfortable. Our servicemen and women can be comfortable. And our public servants across this country, we want this government to make us comfortable. You are there sitting in the seat. Make our people comfortable. You don't sit there and drive around the place in your fancy vehicles and then our people are in a corner suffering. We want to be able to get and enjoy some of the wealth from the oil, not only when the vice president or somebody else decides that they want to, oh, give out a little token here, oh, give out a little token there. Is that what we've become, a people of tokens or handouts? That's what you have now relegated us to. This is such a shame. And while we're on this, I cannot stop talking about what is happening to our teachers in this country. What is happening to our teachers in this country, the way our teachers are being treated. They are so scared to talk when there are issues in their schools because they're fearful or they're afraid that they're going to be victimized. And this cannot continue to happen. We are living in, according to all of these guardians of democracy and so on, we are supposed to be living in a democratic country. And if you live in a democratic country, then people must be able to talk and talk freely. They should not be afraid that you're going to victimize them. And it's so disgusting sometimes, so very very disgusting, you know. And it's like I'm seeing one of our viewers here saying it's like pass people eyes pass teachers, and that is what we're having. Another call, another viewer is saying, we live in a dictatorship country, and it's actually a fact where every day we are seeing more and more and more demonstrations of what dictators do. I mean, come on.
Coretta,
Mm-hmm.
um, you you mentioned earlier that there was this story of an accident that's done happened, and the body had disappeared. And
Mm-hmm.
one one thing I noticed came out of that that I had never seen before in Guyana actually is that the indigenous community, not the entire community, but a major part of the community came out and requested justice. I noticed the organizations came out, the APA, GOIP, and I noticed young people, I noticed the family, I noticed political party, GAP, etc., came out and constantly demanded justice. And I think that is the way we have to go. in the future. When something is going wrong, we have to speak out. We have to bring it to the fore. Fortunately, we have this thing called social media because it will be difficult to go to government control news media. It will be very difficult. They will just ignore you. But we have social media, and here is where we can continue to lobby. And like what happened there with results came after constant lobbying. All Guyanese, we need to lobby to make sure that better come, and better must come. But we have to play our role. Thank you.
I'm seeing here that we have some really, really mentally challenged people who are watching this program. This program is really not for them. As a matter of fact, there's a young man who's asking, what did Granger do when he was in office, when the APNU government was in office? Well, that person really didn't know what was happening because workers received 77% increase. As a matter of fact, our students, our pupils and students across this country, they were introduced to the 5 Bs: boats, books, buses, bicycles, and bags. Those were the things that the 5 Bs did. We presented bicycles, boats, buses, books, bags, including breakfast to our students. That was some of what the Granger government did. Workers got their increases in salaries. Our country was on a path to development. Talk about what happened in the hinterland and Vincent. I'm sure you can share on some of what happened in the hinterland, what our indigenous brothers and sisters received. In some areas where they never had water, running water, they got running water. Where they never had electricity, they got all of that. Where there was no internet connection, they got that. And so when some people want to talk and talk foolishness, they don't understand what they're saying. It's either that or they're mentally challenged. So they don't understand the level of this conversation. But Vincent, could you share with us some of the achievements of the coalition government in the hinterland?
Before I forget, um, during APNU AFC's, including GAP, tenor as in government, we didn't have um, we didn't have monies from the oil industry, to even back us up for loans and whatnot, like what this government was doing or is doing. So, there wasn't so much to spread around.
Mm-hmm.
But but the APNU AFC government did not only work on the coast, they work on the hinterland. We got towns in the hinterland,
Mm-hmm.
Latam and all those areas. We were all one time we were just a dusty place. Now we are growing town. Um, and our main road especially was excellent, would last 100 years. The PEP used to make roads that would last, we call them biscuit roads. They would last about a month and a half, and then they deteriorate rapidly. And we show them, what kind of infrastructure to make. For example, the Manari Bridge. The Manari Bridge is one that is will last a very, very long time. And not a wooden bridge, not what the PEP is accustomed to making. And then we have had things like communication, radio stations. We have a radio station in Aishalton, one in Latam. There was already one in Bina Hill. Now this allowed uh, our people to feel that we are part of Guyana. Before that, all we used to hear was Ayome Gushte Jose and those sort of things from, Brazil or Spanish station. That's all you're hearing all the time. And, we felt that you're living in another country. But with the radio stations, we began to feel as real Guyanese. And
Mm-hmm.
we have our people in the radio stations speaking the local languages, Makuyu, Wapishana, etc. So it was a big improvement, and therefore information, news, problems, everything was being aired, during the PDP's time, there was a total darkness where that was concerned. They didn't want the people to be involved in this. They didn't want people to hear. As a matter of fact, at the Radio Piomac at one time, they were told not to speak the indigenous language there. They were ordered not to speak, and that was by the PPP. You know, so since
Mm.
APNU AFC came in the government in terms of communication, oh, we did so well for the people. The people are happy about it. Internet in every single community in Region 9, maybe one left, but if I remember correctly. But everybody got communication with the world. You know, that's like a magic happened, and that happened under APNUAFC. The
Mm-hmm.
APNUAFC didn't say that if the indigenous people get internet, they can learn too much and they might vote us out, or or they might
So
go
true.
against us, or all kind of nonsense. They didn't say that. It was freedom of choice, and freedom to have information from wherever be, unlike what the PPP did to us here. And then in terms of water supply, um, water supply was being done right across the region. Started in the south of Pununi, where the Brazilians, through the kind of affiliation that they had with Mr. Granger, they helped us. So we got wells in south of Pununi. And one time I went to bed in a remote village named Shia. And when I turn on the water, they didn't get blackout because I didn't expect the water to have such force coming out of the wells. But sad to say is that now many of those systems, because of mismanagement, because of not being kept in order, have begun to deteriorate. And it seems that it's being done on purpose, so that you could say, oh, it was done by Apno ALC, and look at it now. They keep doing it. In fact, in one village by the name of at Awarwa now, there's a well that is functioning there 24 hours a day. The water is just wasting.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't connect it. The PEP wouldn't connect it to the houses, so people got to fetch water, and the water just wasting into the ponds right there. That's the kind of thing. And they what we also did, Apno ALC under Dr. Vanders Charles, they paid a serviceman in each community, trained him, make sure he could do the work, give him, a job description, and he or she, because they have some women too, had to make sure that the water working 24 hours a day. And if there was a problem, then a bigger team they cannot have, a bigger team will come from Latham or Georgetown rapidly. You pick up the phone in Charlton and you call, and by the time the next afternoon, a team is there to service up. But unfortunately, the PPP fired all those servicemen and they put some CSOs to take over. Now, these CSOs, well, first of all, they haven't gone through life yet. They are now learning. They have to be trained. And sad to say, in many instances, the water supply system is going down the drain. In Napi, when I was there at one time during our 5 years, the an old man came to me and said, "Thank you very much." I said, "You don't thank me. You don't thank me. Thank the people of Guyana who put APNU AFC in government, because that's how
Yeah.
you get
Mm-hmm.
water right up to your house now. You got to thank the people of Guyana who did it, not me, and many others." Recently, I saw the X2 show complaining that the water system was down and they had nobody there to look after it. So things are
Wow.
going bad. And just imagine this is happening in our country that has resources, mismanagement. I think all they're trying to do is to manage to fill their pockets. Once they fill their pockets, that's good management for them, and let the
Mm-hmm.
people, feel the
Mm-hmm.
squeeze eventually. So and I could go on talking the whole night about the developments that happen in our area, and then suddenly the PEP they're here, installed. Um, we could talk about that also whole night. And they're here, and things supposed to be getting better with the resources that are there, but it's getting worse. And our people are seeing that. They're seeing that. They're judging it for themselves. Thank you.
Well, Vincent, we can talk on and on and on about what the coalition government would have done. As a matter of fact, the coalition government was a government for all the people of Guyana. Even the children felt that they belonged. Even your pets knew that they belonged somewhere and that they were loved. And so we hadn't all the kinds of things that we are having here now. And what what has happened is that people have lost hope. Many persons are losing hope, because they felt that, all right, after you decided that yes, you wanted to be there and you were installed, that you're going to do something good for this country. Noting that we have now the oil resources, that life is going to be better, but actually life is worse for the people in this country. And it's sometimes very disturbing when you have to listen to the concerns that people are having over the last 2 years. When people sit to tell you what they are going through, you can't imagine that just 2 years, or just about 2 years, these kinds of things are happening to people, and people have gotten to a level where they were never at. We're seeing the rise in cost of living, but nothing is happening with your salaries. Every day, the price for fuel is going up and up and up, and nobody can say anything to us. Nobody can put any system in place to help the poor people. And so if you have a vehicle, then you have to suffer. You're suffering there, the additional cost that you have to pay. If you don't have a vehicle and you have to commute with public transportation, you suffer again, because you have to pay the fares that the operators are calling. And so Guyana has moved more than 10 steps in a backward direction. We don't want to hear all the talks you talk about, oh, you do this and you do that. But when we look at the way people are living, people are actually living, or they're living from paycheck to paycheck. And even before you don't collect that, it's finished. And there is no way that you can put a little thing in the corner to save. And so we have to understand that education is the vehicle that will move people out of poverty. But you know what this government prides itself in? It prides itself in sharing out handouts. They're not concerned about education, really. Sharing out handouts so that you can always remain at a level where they can trample over you. But I want to say to us parents and the teachers who are watching here, and citizens on the whole who are watching this program tonight, demand for yourselves and for your families the best. Make this government, this installed regime, make them be accountable for every cent that they're spending. The monies that they're spending, it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us, the citizens of this country. And so you have got to come out and make them accountable for everything that they do. Demand that they come to your communities and they offer the services that you're requiring. Demand that they come there and they ensure that the schools in those areas are proper. Ensure that they come there and install proper lighting facilities. During the coalition's time, we had, and thank you to David Patterson and Annette Ferguson, the whole issue of constant power outages, we did not experience that during those last 5 years. But now every minute is a power outage. Every time you turn around is a power outage. The confusion we're having on the road, every minute something is happening somewhere every time you turn. And this is saying to us that something is really, really wrong. Something is really, really wrong. We have people who are sitting in positions, receiving big fat salaries, and they can't do the work. We have education officers, and I'm not going to spare them. We have education officers who don't know what they're about, but they're there to man schools and to give supervision when they themselves need to be supervised. We have all kinds of policies in the education system, and we make big fancy talks about them, and nothing is happening. They're really not any progress. Nothing you're seeing. And that is why we be having the pink slips in circulation still. Every time you turn around, is a pink slip. A pink slip in the form of a one-off cash payment. A pink slip in the form of another one-off cash payment. A pink slip here and a pink slip there. We need to do better than what we're doing. And as citizens, let me urge you to demand, because we deserve to live a better life. We deserve to live a better life, regardless of who you are, whether you're Indo or Afro or Amerindian or whoever you are. We are Guyanese, and we deserve to belong right here. We imagine persons who are not Guyanese are receiving much more than us. We have our young people here. Many of them can't get jobs, but yet they can't get a piece of land. But lo and behold, we're seeing that citizens from one of our sister Caribbean islands is receiving land so that they can plant. What happened to our people? Our people don't know how to plant. Our people don't know how to own a piece of land. And mind you, that exact sister Caribbean state, there was a time when Guyanese had a bench, a cold room. But you know, nobody is remembering that. Nobody is remembering that. But our people here are suffering, but we creating jobs, and we giving land and so on to other people. Vincent, your take on this just before we go, because I recognize our time is counting down on us. But I want to say our teachers deserve better, and we are going to ensure that our teachers get better. We are going to ensure that every citizen across this country, they get a better life. Your take, Vincent, before we
Am
go,
I
your
to talk
closing.
now?
Yes, your closing remarks.
Yes. Well, in Parliament, um, somebody for the opposition side criticized and said in the coalition we do not speak from one script. And my answer in my rebuttal was that we are not robots. We are
Exactly
not
true.
robots listening to anybody who sits in an engine room. Because I told them, I'm sure all of you are on your phones right now, waiting for instructions from the engine room. But our coalition doesn't operate so. There's freedom of ideas, and we sometimes you might have an idea, I might have one, yours better than mine. Well, we talk about it and we move forward. But with them, whatever instructions come from that engine room, that's what they run with. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why, that is one of the main reasons why. Although, when at the beginning we heard about this oil find and that oil find, I personally used to be so happy, like I wouldn't sleep properly tonight with happiness. Oh, we gotta get it, finding oil, petroleum, crude oil. But eventually, like all most Guyanese, you're still hearing about this more oil, and you just get more dejected because we got this person in the engine room who I do not think that person has children, or if he has, if he loves them. Well, you gotta love all Guyanese once you sit in an engine room like that, and make sure that
Mm-hmm.
all Guyanese get something good out of this boom that's coming our way, and not just allow one section to hog it all, and the rest of us continue to suffer. But the time is coming when the people will have to make their decision, and I am sure the people will make the right decision and allow a really caring government to be there for Guyana. And can only be APNU AFC. Can only be that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Vincent, I want to thank you for being here with us again. And to you, our wonderful viewers, it has been a pleasure being here with you. Even the distractors and the ones who were sent from the engine room, it's a pleasure having you here with us, because you're enlightened, you're given facts so that you can share with your colleagues. It's always good to be here to talk with you. But let me remind you again, education is the machine that is going to take us out of poverty. And for us to get to that level, we have to ensure that all is treated equally. And so I'm hoping that the Ministry of Education would have a plan that during the August vacation, we are going to be checking each school across this country so that we can have all the repair works being done. We can have proper menus being put in place. We can have enough food being sent to those schools that are offering meals to the children who live in the dorms and those who are having hot meals, and that you can have a proper diet being given to them in terms of the meals that you offer. Please use the time during the August vacation. Use this time to highlight all that you have to do. Take note of all that you have to do. And let's be able to make sure that come September, our teachers are going to feel safe in school. Our boys and girls are going to feel safe in school. And our parents would feel safe when they are at work or wherever else they are, that their children are being kept under proper supervision and that they are safe in school. With that, I want to thank you for being here with us on Advancing the Cause. And I look forward to seeing you again next week at 6:30 for more on Advancing the Cause. Do remember, COVID is still alive and it's kicking. So wear your mask, wear them correctly, sanitize as often as possible, and encourage your friends to stay safe. We have the reins on us at this time, and let me also advise that you ensure that you have your rain gears. I know this is another big burden for you because the money it's not even enough. But ensure that you have your rain gear so that you are going to be safe when it's raining. When you have to go to your workplaces, ensure that you put on your long boots because I notice many areas are being flooded. And again, this is what we're supposed to be doing. The Minister of Local Government, what are you doing? Get all your NDCs and so on to function and get them to clear the drains and clear all those those trenches and so on, so that when it rains, we are not going to be affected. Viewers, I want to thank you. I don't want to get more heated than I'm getting here, because these are things that caring governments do. Caring governments look out for their people. Caring governments don't allow their teachers to walk through water. Caring governments don't allow their pupils and students to walk through water. And if it happens one time, then you put systems in place so that it's not going to happen another time. That's what caring governments do. But we know for sure that we don't have a caring government. We don't have a government who's thinking about one people, one nation with one destiny. We have a government that caters for their friends, their families, and the elites. That's what we have while the masses are suffering. Do take care, stay safe, and see you again next week. Bye-bye. God bless you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching our program. See you right back here, same place, same time. And remember, hold the line of battle, comrades. Our victory is sure.